Welcome back, young people. Today we're going to keep practicing our piano literacy and our music reading skills. Now we're going to start incorporating the black keys on the piano. We've been using them already as a reference for where our white key notes are. If you'll recall, there's a group of 2 black keys and then a group of 3 black keys and then 2 and then 3, and that process keeps repeating. So that's been useful for us to tell, for example, that at the bottom of the group of 2 black keys, that's where C lives. And at the bottom of the group of 3 black keys, that's where F lives. But now we're going to need to start using the black keys for their notes as well. Now, a black key can have 2 different names, depending on which line or space it's written on. Because, of course, we can do sharps and we can do flats to get to those notes in between. So if I'm reading C, C4, let's call it this key, but then I put a sharp on that note, the sharp raises the pitch of my note by a half step. So I'm going to go from C up a 1/2 step to the next available key, 1/2 step up. From C to C sharp is what that note would be. However, the same process can be achieved. I can get to the same key and call it a different name. If I start on D, for example, let's put it on this D in the treble clef staff, but I'm going to lower that D by applying a flat to it. Of course, we know a sharp raises the pitch of a note by a half step, and the flat lowers the pitch of a note by a half step. But when I go from D to D flat, it takes me to the same key. This black key is either C sharp or D flat. And the chart in my book labels it the same way. D to D flat, C to C sharp. But because I'm playing the same note, it sounds the same. Here's C to C sharp. Here's D to D flat. C sharp, D flat, same key, so it sounds the same, but it's spelled differently. For the purposes of this exercise, it doesn't usually matter which of those notes you use, as long as you're clicking on the correct key, for reference sake. Now, let's go into the exercise and look at what you're going to be doing for me. So these exercises are going to look very similar to what you've already done, but now all of a sudden they're going to start highlighting the red notes, and you can see you've got a lot more options. You've got all of your white key letter names, C through B, and then you've got sharp options for everything, and you've got flat options for everything. Now the cool thing about this is because we're just giving you a key on the keyboard, there's more than one right answer for this note. So we're going along and we know that our group of 3 is where we're based on, so this note at the bottom of that is F. Here it is. We go up a half step to this black key, that's the one that's highlighted. I can either call that note F sharp or I can call it G flat. Both of those answers are acceptable. Both of them will get me a right answer. Now, if it's a white key, usually there's only one right answer because, of course, that note has to be A. F, G, A. I can't give that a flat or a sharp name because it's got a black key on either side of it. There are some white keys that can have flat or sharp names. We'll see some of those in a second. Here's another white key, C to D. We have to just call it D. We can't use a flat name for that one. But for this note, we can. Now, the easiest answer for this is, of course, the answer that we've been giving for a while, that it's called E. But this key has an enharmonic name. And that's a fancy music word, enharmonic. But an enharmonic note is basically playing the same key on the piano, but calling it a different name. Otherwise, 2 notes that sound the same but are spelled differently, that are named differently. And any of the notes on my keyboard that have 2 letters attached to them, those are enharmonic notes. G flat is the enharmonic equivalent of F sharp. A flat is the enharmonic equivalent to G sharp. And E has an enharmonic equivalent. So you could just click on plain old E to answer that, but you are equally correct if you call that note F flat. Here's why. This note is F. If I add a flat to it, that means I'm going down a half step. But there's no black key in between, so I have to go just over to the next white key. F to F flat. Same thing, E to E sharp. That also works with B and C because there's no black key in between B and C, if you remember my chart from last time. So B to B sharp is white to white, and C to C flat is white to white. So let's be adventurous. Let's call it F flat. And we got it right. Easy, easy, right? Let's call this one D sharp today because it is 1/2 step higher than D. My other answer for that would, of course, be E flat. And again, there'll be quite a few of these, so you should get really quick at answering them correctly. Now this note I could call F, but it's got an enharmonic equivalent, so I could also call it E sharp, right? E, add a sharp, moves us up one key to E sharp. When you're thinking about adding sharps and flats to notes, I usually look at this part of the keys where the black keys exist, so that if I know that I have to add a flat to it, I'm going down one key, F to F flat. And because there's no black key in the middle, I know that F flat has to be played on a white key. Why do I need to know this? Well, at some point you're going to be in a choir where they don't do smart music for you, and you may have to sit at home, get a keyboard or find one, and plunk through some of your notes. And so you need to be able to recognize the notes on your page and transfer those to the piano to at least be able to, kind of work yourself through your parts. There's one more. It could be B flat or A sharp. We'll call it A sharp. So now we're going to start accessing all of the keys on the keyboard. This starts to get dicey when we get into reverse identification. So once again, you should do the note identification exercise first. Get really comfortable with the names for all of these keys before you move into reverse identification. Now, on reverse identification, once again, I'm going to give you the note and the clef, and you have to click on the keyboard key that corresponds to it. Once again, remember, we need to use our landmarks. We need to know which C belongs to which octave. So, the lower the number, the lower the octave. C2 is 2 ledger lines below the bass clef staff. C3 is second space in the bass clef staff. C4 is our special important C. That's middle C, if you remember from last time. Middle C is either 1 ledger line below the treble clef staff or 1 ledger line above the bass clef staff. Most of the time, that's our division. Anything above middle C is going to be treble clef. Anything below middle C is going to be bass clef, most of the time. And then C5 is third space C in treble clef. C6 is 2 ledger lines above the treble clef staff. So this G sits right there. It's between C5 and C6. I'll find this G. We got it. Here's a B below middle C. So far we haven't seen any problems that are different from our last assignment. So there's middle C. We're going 1 B below that right here. That's our top C. That's C6. A celebrity. And there's middle C, C4. Still waiting for some accidentals to show up here. There we go. Now we've got one. So now all of the notes on the keyboard, all of the notes we can possibly spell are options for you. I can take any of these notes and I can add flats or sharps to them, including you could see an F flat, you could see an E sharp, you could see a C flat, you could see a B sharp. Those are the ones where you need to know that that note is on a white key, even though it's got a flat or sharp next to the name. Sometimes that's still going to happen. Okay, so let's find G flat. Well, first let's find that G. We're in bass clef, and we're in between C4 and C3. So let's find G, and then we're going to go down a half step over to my black key right here. The other way to figure that out is, of course, to look at my keyboard and figure out, okay, G flat is the first black key in my group of 3, and then place it in the correct octave of the piano. Whichever way you want to go about that is fine with me. All right, here we've got a B sharp. Now this B sharp is in the treble clef staff, and it's below middle C. So there's B, and then we're going to go up a half step to B sharp. Hey, look, it was middle C in disguise the whole time. That's the key. Now we've got a note above the bass clef staff. Remember, middle C is also above the bass clef staff. So we're actually going to be higher than that note. We're 2 ledger lines above bass clef staff. There's E, and then we're going to go up one more step from E to E sharp, but it's still a white key because we only get to move up one key for a sharp. The keys of the piano are a really helpful way to visualize flats and sharps, because when you're moving up a sharp, that's up one half step, which is exactly one key. A half step is the smallest unit of measurement in Western music, so it's really easy to visualize with the keyboard. Same thing with the flat. That just moves you down one half step. They're giving us lots of fun notes now. So now we're below the bass clef staff, which means we're down close to C2. This note is an E. 1, 2, 3. There's my E, but it's E sharp, so I gotta bring it up a half step, which is up one key. E sharp is on a white note. And there's middle C once again. So this process could take you a little bit longer. Now that we're adding the flats and the sharps into the name, this chart is going to be really, really helpful for you once again. Just take out your piece of staff paper or just draw it on a piece of paper like I did and chart it out. Middle C is right there in the middle, and then C5 and C3, C6 and C2. Figure out where the note that they give you lies in between those two so that you make sure you put it on the right stem or on the right key on the piano, because it does matter. Not any C flat will do. I can't just pick this one. It's the wrong octave. It's right next to middle C, so I've got to pick that one. And that's all there is to it. Have fun.